Welcome back to the Algarve. Here it is, only 7 months after I put my deposit down on a tricolour Honda Transalp 750, it's finally here. I picked it up a week ago and I've done just over 500 kilometres so far, mostly on road but a bit of light off-roading too. And in this video I'll be giving you my initial impressions, thoughts on the oft-heard criticisms from keyboard warriors on the bike's design, and I'll run you through the 10 or so mods I've done so far. Sod's Law meant collection had to be postponed at the last minute because even here in the Algarve we occasionally get rain. But this did give the dealer a few more hours to prep my bike, and when I arrived the following morning it was all ready for me. I counted another 10 Transalps inside, but they were all vendidas, and apparently lead times on new orders are now currently running at about 4 to 6 months depending on which colour you go for. So let's have a brief run through the mods I've done so far. To be honest, mods is a slight exaggeration, as with all new models there are precious few aftermarket accessories available for the Transalp at the moment, and going on the feedback I've been getting from suppliers, we won't be seeing much before September at the earliest. So here, in no particular order, are the things I've done to my bike so far. I do more or less the same things to all my bikes when they arrive, and it's pretty basic stuff. This is not a how-to. I would imagine it's pretty standard stuff to many of you, but you never know. You might pick up an idea or two. Oh, and all these things I have paid for with my own money and or removed from previous bikes. First mod, the ubiquitous grip Puppies. Now I noticed a slight buzziness in the handlebars when I test rode the demonstrator a couple of weeks ago, and my bike was just the same. So into some warm soapy water for 5 minutes to soften them up, and on they went, no problem at all. Vibration has been attenuated by about 40–50%, so €15 well spent I reckon. Next, the C-Tech battery lead. It's always a good idea to give the battery a full charge even when the bike's brand new, and indeed this took a good few hours to reach maximum charge. Not the sort of thing dealers will always do, but I like to know my battery's in tip-top condition. This ugly fuel sticker was next to go, replaced by a tank pad I cut out from a sheet of 3M Scotchgard. It's extremely tough, almost rubbery feeling film, and it's not that easy to apply, so plenty of soapy water and a heat gun was the way to go. Once it's on and the inevitable air bubbles have subsided, it's all but invisible and certainly more discreet than some other tank pad designs you come across. Once that was on, I treated all the body panels to some built and hammer wax. It doesn't usually rain here that much in southern Portugal, and winters are of course very mild, but the sun can be very harsh in the summer, so I do this a couple of times a year on all my bikes and cars just to keep the paintwork looking factory fresh. Next mod, number 5 on the list, was the tank ring for my SW Motec Engage Pro bag. The fuel cover is very slightly inset from the tank, so to avoid any damage to the paint I cut up some rubber feet I had lying around the garage, and now it fits nice and snug. It would have been nice to adjust the bag forward a bit, but this would have fouled the handlebars on full lock, so I've left it as is. I also have the rear bag and blaze panniers, but I'm not 100% sure these are going to be suitable, and I'm still experimenting. More on rear luggage in a future video. Number 6, a screen protector from Speed Angels. Okay, maybe not that important as it's not a touch sensitive screen, but I will probably be riding in some dusty areas, and at €10 or so it's a lot cheaper than a new screen when your old one is so scratched that you can't read a display. Number 7 isn't exactly a mod, it's more to show you what I've managed to cram under the seat. From left to right we have the battery connector I've already referred to, document pouch, the OEM toolkit, a first aid kit, a multi-tool, disc lock, badge for the toll motorways, and a USB-C to lightning cable that I've run back to the handlebars so I can charge my iPhone. On mod number 8, the quad lock mount, which I also have on my Triumph Speed Twin and Honda ADV 350 scooter. They're quite expensive but they're good quality, and touch wood, I've never had any problems either with the phone not staying in place or being damaged by the inevitable vibrations that filter through, even with the optional damper that I always install. Next accessory is the garage door remote control, stuck on with a bit of double-sided 3M tape. Not massively exciting or applicable to everyone, I know, but there is a small space here to the right of the dash if you have that kind of electrically operated entrance gate or garage door at your home. The final mod in this first week was swapping out the levers. The stock brake lever is span adjustable, but the clutch isn't, and I found it a bit of a stretch even for my relatively large hands. And I also think the satin black finish of the new levers suits the rest of the front of the bike a bit better, so there you go. Actually, the final tweak this week was going to be the removal of these ugly orange side reflectors. They're usually just stuck on with double-sided tape, but on the Transalp they're bolt-on, and the nut is inside what appears to be a double-skinned mudguard support arm, and I can't get into it, so this was a bit of a fail. I believe the front mudguard is lifted straight from the Africa Twin though, so if anybody knows how to remove these reflectors easily, please do let me know in the comments. So how do I feel about the Transalp after a week of ownership? Well, apart from those orange reflectors, it's an easy bike to work on. I've had the side panels off to run the USB charging cable the length of the bike, and they came off and went back on again remarkably easily. Fuel consumption so far has averaged 4.6 litres per 100 kilometres, which I don't think is bad for a brand new engine, and I reckon I should be able to achieve about 4.2 or 67 mpg UK, 56 US or less on longer trips once the run-in period is over. While we're on the subject of the US, and Canada for that matter, I've had quite a few comments from viewers in North America lamenting the fact that they won't be getting the Transalp. Well, for what it's worth, I actually inquired with Honda Europe for my eldest son who lives in Vancouver, and I was told that you should be seeing it sometime late summer, so fingers crossed. A few reviewers have complained about the lack of seat comfort. Well, admittedly I've only been on relatively short rides so far, but I don't find it any less comfortable than my other bikes, or any other bike I've tried for that matter. Either I've got phenomenally resistant buttocks, or I've only ever tried uncomfortable bikes. Now I dare say a BMW RT or a Honda Goldwing would put the Transalp to shame, but for a bike that's a third of the price, I think it's perfectly acceptable. Oh, and the foot pegs are super squishy, so it's like riding around in a pair of slippers. Probably not ideal when you're standing up off-road in wet conditions, but the pads can be removed for that tough bear trap look if you're into that sort of thing. Now, when I rode the demo bike a couple of weeks ago, I found the front brake was very good and the rear only average. But on my bike, for some reason, it seems to be the other way around. Hopefully things will improve once they're properly bedded in, and there's always the option of fitting some sintered pads up front, as I did on my Speed Twin. I was also keen to try the quick shifter, as the demo bike didn't have one. I did try it though on the mechanically identical Hornet and was very happy with it, and sure enough on my Transalp it's a real peach. Now, as with all quick shifters, you do have to get the engine load right, otherwise gear changes can be a bit jerky, but overall this is one of the smoothest, easiest to use shifters I've ever tried. And the shift speed can be configured in the settings menu, which for a 10 grand mid-size adventure bike is pretty good. On the subject of the display, it's nice and legible. If slightly on the small side, a 6 or 7 inch screen would have been great, as some of the text is a bit hard to read at a glance. It's not lacking information though, and about the only thing I miss is an ambient temperature display. You get lots of information, which if I'm being honest is not particularly useful to me, like coolant temperature and instant fuel consumption, but it's all there if you want, and there's even a phone connectivity thing offering turn-by-turn navigation. I've tried it briefly and it's okay, but I personally prefer the luxury of a proper map on my phone, but I suppose the integrated sat-nav here would be useful when it's raining. So the Transalp is well equipped, relatively comfortable, at least for my backside, powerful enough for all road situations, relatively light, with a turning circle and low centre of gravity, something I did notice when manoeuvring around the garage. It is significantly easier than the Speed Twin and even the ADV scooter. Even though many won't agree, I personally think the Transalp is a good looking bike, except maybe for that weird headlight. It's too small and mounted too high, but overall it's handsome enough, especially in this colourway, I think, with its gold rims. The wind protection is good for such a small screen, although I have had the optional deflectors fitted from new. So what's it like off-road then? Well, look, I would have gone for a Tenere if I'd wanted a hardcore off-road motorcycle. The Transalp isn't that. It's a sweet handling road bike that you can ride on the road for a couple of hours in comfort, stop for lunch, and then wander a few kilometres up that gravel road or forest track that you've spotted whilst at the restaurant. With its 21-inch front wheel, the Transalp can absolutely go off-road, and it's more than a match for my limited skills on the gravel, but it's much more Range Rover than rock crawler. That being said, I was fully aware of the bike's characteristics when I placed my order, and now that I have ridden it, it's exactly how I imagined it would be. The sweet spot, at least for me, between the venerable, if slightly underpowered CB500X and an Africa Twin that's too big and too expensive. It has come in for some criticism for having tubed tyres, and I will confess that I have developed a certain puncture anxiety that I haven't felt with other tubeless bikes that I've owned. I have ordered a pair of spare inner tubes from the dealer, but as I confessed to them, I'm not sure if I'd have the tools or the skills to do a quick roadside repair anyway, so we'll just have to see. My insurance gives me 2 free recoveries per year, so if the worst comes to the worst. People have also been moaning about the lack of cruise control, and I do get that. I've been studying the map to see how best to get down to Gibraltar for my first long ride, and from what I can see, it's basically motorway nearly all the way. Great in a car, but rather defeats the purpose of taking a bike, especially one without cruise. Other than these extra long rides, though, I can't say that I would really use a cruise control in the Algarve, because the roads here are just really not designed for one. Future videos on my Transalp will be covering such topics as top things I love and hate, 3-month review and so on, plus a few videos on touring in Portugal, Spain and possibly North Africa, as well as the more serious mods and accessories I intend installing once they become available, like crash bars from Outback Motortech, Barkbuster handguards, Rally Raid engine protection, Moscow luggage, and some bits and pieces from SW Motec, who have also expressed an interest in working with me now that I'm a high-profile influencer. So if you're thinking of getting yourself a Transalp, or you're just frustrated by the extra long delivery times, then feel free to subscribe. That's all for today. Ride safe, and as always, thanks for watching.